Vi skal høre fra Aleks Amundsen fra Immeo. Han er manager. Aleks skal fortælle om de transformative potentialer, som der er i AI, og hvordan man automatiserer virksomheders vidensdeling. Han skal blandt andet gøre os klogere på, hvordan vi kan udnytte de her eksisterende data, der allerede er ude i virksomhederne, til at hvordan skal man sige, komme udenom de udfordringer, som B2B-virksomheder står overfor. Oplægget er på engelsk, og Aleks står her ved min side. So if you are ready, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. My presentation is going to be about automation of knowledge sharing in global B2B companies using AI. First, a little bit about myself. My name is Aleks. I'm a manager at Immeo. I'm born and raised in the United States. I've been living in Copenhagen for the last 10 years. I can absolutely understand Danish. I speak Norwegian. I have Norwegian parents, but it's a lot easier if you want to talk to me in English, I think. I have a bachelor's from the University of Washington. I have a master's from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and I have a master's from DTU. This is all in some form of applied or computational math. And after I was getting done with all my education, I decided I would like to do some IT consulting. I would like to sort of step away from math for a while. So for the last 8 years, I've been in Immeo, where I've been consulting on digitalization of different product-to-market processes for Immeo. And who is Immeo? Well, we've been around for about 9 years now. We have 130 plus full-time employees. We have offices in Copenhagen, Aarhus, Aalborg. And we're a business-oriented IT consultancy working on end-to-end IT services within the financial sector, within industry and manufacturing, lots of public websites, energy sector as well. And we advise on implementation of new products and systems, and also modernization, moving towards the cloud. But enough about that. Today, I want to talk about automation of knowledge sharing, data-driven automation. So what I mean by this is automation where we use data in an intelligent fashion, eliminating these time-consuming steps where we're always reconsidering the next step. And I'll explain what I mean with that. But it's going to be about activation and cultivation of hidden knowledge within your company, introducing predictability into your processes, and removing manual steps where the next step is being reconsidered. And I'm going to base this on a case where we have automation process built from the ground up, and also going to show how we can use AI to guide this process and learn from the data. And the case is going to be stemming from one of our clients, our partners, Alfa Laval. Now, Alfa Laval is a global manufacturer and distributor of equipment, service, and parts to lots of different industries. There's refrigeration, there's power generation, there's pharmaceuticals, there's chemicals, a wide array of different types of organizations. And they have 17,000 employees. They're in over 100 different countries, and their main office is in Sweden, here in Lund. Their key product areas are fluid handling, heat transfer, and separation. And we've been collaborating with them since 2017. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a perspective of capital sales as a global manufacturer, using Alfa Laval as sort of a example. It's not going to be one-to-one, but they're going to be our case. So you can have a headquarters here in Scandinavia, Sweden, for Alfa Laval, with a global logistics and production network where you have product management and research and development, service engineers, IT, manufacturing, and sales spread out throughout the world. So you can have your headquarters in Sweden, you can have production of certain products in France and in China of the same product. You can have a specialized and distributed sales force. So these can either be localized in a specific market, so they have local market knowledge of the different regulations and other influential factors that go into what the customer needs, or they can be more industry and application specific, so more interested in knowing exactly what this customer is going to be using the product for. We know all about that industry. And then the customers, they can be again, all over the world. They could be in Brazil and in the oil and natural gas production. And typically they're known quantity to the company. They are concerned with operations, efficiency, production, their environmental impact, and cost. So cost is like one of the lowest things that they're worried about, because the things that they purchase from a supplier, they just need to work. Their product is not what they're purchasing, their product is what they produce. So when they come to Avlava, they have this product that they want to purchase, and this product has a different complexity. So if we look at the product complexity, this here is a heat exchanger. It's basically a big metal block where you have 4 holes. In one of the holes, you have a hot fluid going in. In another, you have a cold fluid going in. And then the idea is that the fluids don't mix, but the heat changes so that you get a slightly cooler fluid coming out and a slightly warmer fluid coming out. So if we explode this little diagram, we can see that there's lots of components to it. It's very complex of how the actual plates are placed together, how the different parts are welded and aligned so that the most efficient heat transfer can happen in a very compact space. So the organization sees this as a very complex product, and this is very important to them, how this fits together. If you go to the customer, they just see this as one of many different products that they have on their line. So it's not really that important what's inside of it. It needs to work, especially because it's not the main thing that they're worried about. It just goes into their system, and it's sort of a periphery object within their production line. So we have the customer perspective on one side, and then we have the organization perspective on the other side. So how product management, R&D, manufacturing, and field service see their product. And then we have sales in the middle, sort of trying to bridge this gap. And if you look, sales has a decent amount of knowledge when it comes to this product, but not as much as product management, R&D, manufacturing, and field service. They all have different levels of knowledge about this product. But of course, knowledge about a product isn't like this. It's not from the ground up. There's a wide range of knowledge. So not one person has the full picture, but collectively, they all know everything there is to know about this product. So product management knows a lot, but then maybe R&D can fill in some of the gaps, field service and manufacturing. And sales has more of a distributed understanding of the product. Because again, this might not be their favorite product to sell. This might not be their favorite industry. So they're not going to know everything there is to know about this product in every situation. But ideally, a customer comes to them with a problem, and then sales is able to find a solution and a quote. But that typically isn't what happens. So what would happen in a theoretical situation? When they're trying to get a quote for a nice new compo block. They need to get the right size of this product to make sure that their fluids going in will have the right heat transfer and that everything will fit into their existing system. So the customer comes to them with a problem, and sales doesn't immediately understand what they need. They can understand the product type, but they don't know what solution they should be offering. So they need to go to our product management, who says, well, I don't have enough information. Can you please get some clarifications for me from the customer? So then sales has to go back to the customer, and the customer has to then investigate internally and then respond to any questions that product management comes with, and then back to product management. And now they can identify the product line, perhaps. But they want R&D to decide, okay, what exactly is the configuration? What is the sizing of this compo block? R&D says there's enough information, needs a clarification, more investigation and responding from the customer, and then R&D can get the right size. So they have the final product configuration, but now it comes down to the quote. Manufacturing needs more inputs about the type of metal that's going to be used. Field service needs to know where it's going to be installed. If it's going to be on an oil platform in the North Sea, things are going to cost more clarifications, more investigations, and then finally we get down to a solution and quote. So instead of the situation being that the customer has a problem and sales can give a solution and quote, sales constantly was reconsidering the next step. What is the solution? What is the quote? And they had to go within their organization to figure out what's going on. And then they had to go back to the customer to make more clarifications. So a hypothetical, really long, drawn-out process. And if we look at the different roles within the company, we have the knowledge sharing of each of these individuals. We have product management, R&D, manufacturing, field service, and sales. And there's lots of hidden knowledge here. So everything in white, that's the hidden knowledge from the different roles in the organization. But all these people are working in systems. So they're working in the PLM. They're working in the configurator, the sales ERPs, the manufacturing ERPs, the install base CRM, and they probably have other databases. They have other SharePoint lists, Excel files, other things that they're working in. And then in the end, that results in a lot of data just floating around. And these are going to be in different systems, different formats. Some of it's free text, some of it's XML, JSON, CSV. And all this data, this is where IT can play a very good role. Because what IT can do, they don't need to know knowledge about the product, but they can introduce something to gather that knowledge, some data intelligence to collect this knowledge and do something smart with it and have the full hidden knowledge in one system. So now I'm going to go into a case of where Laval has done something like this. They were having problems with identification of their solutions, so they've introduced an automated solution identification tool called the Hexpert. And that's a heat exchanger selection tool, because I showed you one type of heat exchanger, but there's many others. There's shell and tube, there's gasketed, there's brazed, there's welded. There's lots of different heat exchangers. And to get the right one, they've developed this nice wizard where you can go in and answer a few questions. And then based on your inputs, you're able to come to a conclusion of what exact type of heat exchanger you need for your solution. So this is publicly available on their public alphalaval.com website, and the customer can go in there and identify their solution without waiting for Laval sales, without waiting for anything. They're presented with all their different pertinent clarifications that they need immediately. So it eliminates that reconsideration step from internal. They do still need to make these clarifications within their own organization to answer all these questions. It might not be all the questions that the person is able to answer immediately. But the solution is identified, but the sizing is actually missing. So the customer still needs to request a quote from sales for both the sizing and the price. So what would we do then? We implemented an automated sizing tool. So what we've done is we've gone in and we've collected data from the CRM, from the configurator, from the ERP, and we've introduced an Azure ecosystem where we've taken in this data, some of it unstructured, some of it structured in different fashions, and taken it into blob storage where we then are able to adapt it and turn it into some nice structured data, where we've then built a prediction model that we train and expose this with an API. And now we're able to predict the most likely sizing based on a few more questions in that Hexpert flow. So now both sales and the customer can use this automated sizing tool and get the correct sizing of their product. And then we can use the pricing service to then determine a quote for the customer. What we've also built on top of this is a bunch of scoring and visualization. So we've had all this data and we've created some prediction models. And what we're also doing is doing analysis of the data that we're using so that we know if we're getting in new data, is it proper data? And then when we create new prediction models, are prediction models improving? Are things going the right way? Another thing that we've also done is whenever a salesperson or a customer makes any request to this automated sizing tool, we record that request. So then we can know what requests are we getting in, what were the predictions that we were making, and we can go back and retune if something is amiss when we look at our historical predictions. So on a higher level, we've identified our data. This is previous orders from ERP, the configurator information, CRM. So we know the customers, we know the products, we know the solutions that we've delivered before. Can we then do something with that information? And then we've taken these configured products that we've delivered to the customers, and then we've introduced it with a dynamic data flow. So these information can automatically be uploaded into our Azure ecosystem, and then we have some data model validity, where we apply business rules, where we introduce business logic, where we really do the data cleansing and do the data massaging to make it into a prediction algorithm that is exposed as a service, and it's in the Alpha Laval cloud ecosystem. So it's in the DevOps, it's in the Azure, and we can track all the different requests that are coming in from salespeople, from anyone on this Hexpert site, because it's integrated into this Hexpert flow. So we take a look in a more component-based setup. This is still not fully expanded, but we have a lot of different components processing the data in this setup. So we get the data in from a couple of different ERP systems, from the configurator, from the CRM, in different formats. And this is all being delivered into a Azure storage account as sort of unstructured data. And then we have some data adapters which are transforming this data into a common business model based on what we need for the prediction model. And we're triggering retraining through a storage queue. And when we retrain, we have model training, and we also develop scoring and visualizations. And we save that as well down into the blob storage. And then we have an application insights running on top of this, and we can email alert when a new model comes in or when new data comes in that someone should take a look at before we deploy it and make it live. And then all of this is being exposed then the service on API management, and it's available on the public web, and we can expose the service on lots of different portals as well. And then every time some request is made, we then store that in our SQL, and we have the ability to go back and determine are these predictions we're making, are they any good? Now, this is very granular and component-based, and what I want to talk to you about now is the ability with the new tools that Azure has introduced to skip a lot of these steps. So we started this project a couple years ago, and we introduced all these different components. If we were doing it today in the Azure AI Studio, we would still do a lot of this work, but the components wouldn't be there. We wouldn't have had to code the different data adapters or the visualizations and the scoring. What we would be able to do is just to upload the data, structure it, introduce the business logic, the business reality to the data, and then train different types of models, identify which is the best model, and expose that. So there are a lot of opportunities to start rapidly with the new Azure AI tools and all the other different advances that there have been in the past couple of years. So that was a quick presentation. Key takeaways. The whole point is activation and processing hidden knowledge and insight. So there's hidden knowledge within your organizations. The full picture exists somewhere, and you need to find that and activate it and process it. Then you can eliminate these handovers. You can empower individuals to make the right decisions at the right point. And you can use that hidden knowledge and insight to predict the most likely outcome when you come into these situations where you're reconsidering the next step. You can predict that next step. You know, you've seen this situation before. The data is somewhere in your systems. You're able to predict that. If we go to the next key takeaway, one of the most important things is activation and cultivation of this data. The data exists. Understanding what data you need, that's a hard step. It's always been the hard step with AI projects to find the right data that you need for your projects. And it's still the case, but it's basically the foundation of the process. And it's also a lot easier to start now with these different Azure AI services. So I hope you can look into that. And all these initiatives start with understanding the business model. You need to introduce that business reality to your data model. And none of this is limited to global B2B sales. This is applied to any process within an organization, big or small, where you have this hidden knowledge. And it's not about being a first mover anymore when it comes to machine learning and AI technologies. It's more about keeping up now. And these new Azure AI services are really leveling the playing field when it comes to that. That is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you a lot, Aleks, for the interesting talk. Let me check whether there are some questions. If not, I have some myself.
Yes.
I would like to start with asking whether there are any prerequisites or considerations that companies need to have in place before beginning to implement these AI-driven solutions for knowledge sharing.
Yeah. I mean, the most clear that I can think of is you might not succeed. You might have a really good idea. You might have a really good plan on what you're going to be doing. But if the data quality isn't there, if you go and you take a look and you say you have 10 years of data and it's going to be good and we can activate this, if the data quality is not there, you cannot build something smart. And it's okay to fail, because then you know that, okay, if I keep on working with the data quality, in 5 years, we'll have enough data. And then we can come back to this, and then we can keep moving down this road. It's really about understanding the process around it, understanding how important your data is, and then being able to move forward with projects like this.
All right. So what I understand is that companies who want to start this journey already have to look at their quality of their data already now before beginning this process.
Yeah, and it's probably the most time-consuming part of an AI project is looking at your data. And it's also hard to know where to look. It's hard to understand that, well, these two things are the same, but it's written water in one language and it's written water in another language, and sure, they're the same, but there's some manual process that has to go in and fix these things, that has to catalog into a common business model. And that's going to have to happen no matter what.
All right. Are there any specific industries or sectors in which these AI-driven knowledge sharing solutions are more successive than others?
I wouldn't limit it to an industry. I would just say it's companies that are good with their data, companies that understand the importance of their data and have the support, obviously, from the C-level to go forward with these initiatives, even though they may not be 100% successful. You might not get a return on your investment directly. You might not achieve your goal, but you will gain learnings and you will gain understanding.
All right. How does this integration of AI impact the roles and responsibilities of employees involved in knowledge sharing within these B2B organizations?
Yeah. I mean, the traditional knowledge sharing, you have a new team member and you go in and you talk to them and you try to give them all your knowledge. They will understand what they already knew, plus a little bit extra. They won't understand what you know. So we're able to sort of eliminate that step and have it be more focused on your job is R&D. Your job is sales. Your job is not to communicate with sales all the time and tell them how this product should work for this specific customer in this specific application. Just focus on your role. Obviously, with caveats, of course. But
well, thank you a lot, Aleks. It was very interesting. We will have a break now. So again, thank you.
Yes, thank you.